Hello, and welcome to the 21st episode of the 10th Divine Podcast. This is a show about Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm your host, Shanty, and I am here with my amazing co-host, Raven. How are you doing this week?
Yeah, this week's it's been a real shit show at work. Just been really bad. There's some stuff there's a lot of change going on, and people are reacting to the change, and those of us who are senior management are attempting to manage the people reacting to the change, and it's all very exciting. So it's been really really annoying. So annoying that this morning I woke up in a cold sweat at like 8 a.m. from a dream where I'd been trying to format a Word document in a really strict time frame. Like there was an event about to start and I had to format this Word document so I could print it out and give it to the people who were coming to the event because they were all going to sing a song and the words to the song were on the Word document. And the Word document kept in like putting in extra characters, it kept putting it in different languages, it kept changing the layout, and I was like in tears because I couldn't like get the document to format. And I'm really good at Word document formats, and it was, yeah. So I think that probably explains like roughly where my brain is at right now. And then when I got out of bed, I made myself a coffee, and I immediately had a nosebleed. So yeah, so it's great. Everything's great. Yep, fine. I got into the car yesterday to take the cat to the vets. I got the cat in a box. I put the box and the cat in the car, and the car wouldn't start. This is not a dream. This is a thing that happened in real life. So I had to get a new car battery this morning to go in. Like I had to get a mobile mechanic round to put a new car battery in my car. Like, yeah, it's just been, it's been a thing. How are you?
Well, on my end, this week's kind of been a shit show too. The only positive is I haven't had to go to work. Monday and Tuesday I had severe internet intermittent issues where I just couldn't get it to stabilize. Like 11 modem restarts over those 2 days. Then Wednesday and Friday, my back just completely laid me out. Thursday had American style worry because my wife works in the school system and there was a lockdown scare.
Oh.
So yeah, it's been less than ideal.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the first week of your holiday, Shanty. You've been looking forward to your holiday for so long.
Yeah, and it found some way to manage to stress me out more than if I had been at the office.
It's not good.
But going back, you must be so stressed out. You're an early riser, so to hear you're still in bed at 8 is shocking to me.
Yeah. I was trying to reward myself with a lie-in. Like I woke up at 6:30 because I always wake up at 6:30, and I was like, I'm gonna have a lie-in today because yesterday was quite stressful with the cat and the vet and the thing, and the mechanic's coming at 10, so I got loads of time. I'm gonna have a lie-in, and instead I had a nightmare stress dream about Microsoft Word. So that was great. Yeah.
But on the flip side, when I did manage to stream this week, so far we have raised $35 for Extra Life.
Hey.
So we will be pushing the rest of the streamathon to next Thursday through Saturday while I still can. Nice. Because I'm not trying to make up 18 hours today.
No.
No. But as ever, we are not on our own. We are very excited for today's guest, Puppies. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing really well. Thanks for asking.
I hope you've had a less stressful week than we have apparently had.
Yeah, no, it was just another week. Nothing crazy over here, so I can't complain.
Good.
Winning.
Yeah.
You're winning.
If it was a competition, which obviously it's not.
Look, I just like 1 week without stress, and that's why I had this week off work, and it didn't work out that way.
I know those feels.
But it's been a little while since we've chatted, so what have you been up to in game recently, Raven?
Well, not a huge amount of gaming. So this week I didn't have to work too late, but the last 2 weeks I've been working quite regularly until 10 o'clock at night. I am not paid to work until 10 o'clock at night. So that's been delightful. And it means I haven't done an awful lot of gaming. But I did manage. I mean, I've been keeping my writs ticked over, keeping my daily login ticked over, all of those kinds of good things. But I did manage to do a bit of dungeoning with the Law Seekers EU crew. So we have a sort of regular Thursday night dungeon thing going on, which I've been dipping in and out of. I haven't made it for a couple of weeks, but I did make it this Thursday. So we did all the pledges this week. And then we did one of which was Ice Reach that I'd never been to before. So that was quite exciting. And then we went to the ruins of Mazatoon, I think. To get somebody, there was a lead or something that somebody wanted to get to. So we all piled in there and just on normal, nothing exciting, nothing too stressful. It's quite nice to go in on normal and just fucking barrel through everything. It's just like, here we are barreling through dungeons. So that was good fun. That's the kind of the most I've done in game recently. I know there was the Jesters Festival. I didn't really get into the Jesters Festival, so I don't know what happened in the Jesters Festival, but I know it was a thing because every time I logged in it told me it was a thing. But I haven't not done a huge amount, which is really super annoying. Not done a huge amount of World of Warcraft either, so it's not like I've been playing a different game. World of Warcraft has had a whole new patch drop, and my other show tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the new quest and the new patch that I haven't yet played. So this is going to make for some quality podcasting, or I'm going to have to play a lot of World of Warcraft between now and tomorrow evening. Yeah,
That's becoming a bit too regular. Of there's new content, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. This is not good. I need to put work back in the work box. Like the work box needs to start ending at 6 p.m. That's when the work box is supposed to stop, and it needs to start doing that. And then I need to be allowed to play video games because it's making me sad. It's making me feel like a grown up. It's making me feel like I have a proper job. It's very annoying. How rude.
Yeah, it is. It's very rude being paid to be the senior leader in a small charity for 20 years. It's very rude. How are you doing, Shanty? Have you got much? Well, I guess you haven't had much gaming because your internet's been fucked.
Well, I did manage about 4 hours of old world farming in Warcraft on Tuesday. Then on Thursday,
living the dream, Shanty.
Then on Thursday, I dipped my toes back into Final Fantasy XIV, which I had an active sub to that I didn't realize because of all the stress I was going under when it renewed.
Oh.
So it was like, I didn't even notice the $80 charge because of all the other mess.
Wow. Okay.
And then this morning, I hopped back into ESO. Having ESO Plus again is so fantastic. I've missed it so much.
You signed out of the ESO of the magic bag for a while.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice. Let me tell you. But I did a little bit of Jester Festival, and then on top of that, I started working through Fighter Skill quest lines that have just been sitting there clogging up my quest log. Can we please have a bigger quest log, by the way, please?
Yeah.
So that's been pretty much my whole week in gaming. How about you, Eigh1?
I've got a kind of a ridiculous weekly schedule. I usually raid some pretty sweaty 12-man content, probably about 20 hours a week.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm on 4 different teams. We had a team just starting the trifecta in Kind's Aegis this last week. Team that's getting pretty close to Godslayer. Team on console that's almost gotten through VDSR hard mode, and then a team on PC who's progressing the trifecta in DSR. Oh,
that's like the other extreme from Shanty's and my. Oh yeah, we played some game this week. That's nice. In fairness, I do more end-game content in World of Warcraft. I just haven't quite got organized in ESO yet.
Yeah, we're working on it.
It takes some.
We have these job things. It's really annoying.
Yeah, for sure. It takes some time to get into as well.
Time and practice, and those are in short supply around here, apparently.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go ahead and dive into the interview proper here. So, how did you discover the Elder Scrolls in general and ESO in particular?
Well, I was actually in high school, and a buddy of mine, he was a huge Skyrim fan. I had never played any of the Elder Scrolls Online games before ESO, and so he had talked about how he was like super excited that there was like a multiplayer version of Skyrim coming out, and so he made me get it, and we started playing it, and it's just been down the rabbit hole ever since.
Did you come from other MMOs, or was that your first MMO experience?
My first MMO.
Oh, exciting.
Okay, so I have a question because there's a huge precedent of somebody telling a Warcraft player to try out the game, they'll help you level, all this other stuff. Then like 2 weeks after you start playing, they're gone. Does your friend still play ESO?
He does not. We played for maybe a year or two, but after that he kind of lost interest and my interest exploded.
Yeah, that's traditional, I think, for sure. Do you just have one character, or do you have a bunch of alts for different things? I mean, it sounds like you've got a lot of stuff going on, so I'm imagining you're a like big alt player at this point.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. When you get into end game rating the way that I do, you have to be, for lack of a better word, an expert at pretty much every class. So I mean, I have one of every damage dealer that I've maxed on the 21 mil parse dummy at some point that I played in content at some point. I have 4 different tanks and 4 different healers, just depending on whatever class a different raid composition might call for. So I definitely have a lot of characters.
Yep. That's, yeah.
So how did you get into content creation?
It was during, I guess, the era that must not be spoken of. And that was kind of when I started getting really into endgame content in ESO. Like I started progressing trifectas and such, and so I thought that maybe I would start streaming it. At the time, I was a part of a social guild, and I was leading like trial teaching runs and stuff. And so I just kind of started making some videos to help some people out here and there, and kind of discovered that I had a little bit of a knack for relaying a lot of this information and for streaming this type of content. So I just started trying to pursue it. I mean, it's a cool idea. It's a cool dream to, be able to do something like that. So, I mean, I figured I'd shoot for it.
Yeah, totally fair. And we all needed something to do during the time that will not be mentioned.
Yeah.
So according to your Twitter bio, you're an ESO endgame masochist. That's an interesting way of putting it. What was it like getting into the endgame? How did you get there? It sounds like you didn't have any previous endgame experience with any other MMOs, but maybe you come from a different corner of video gaming.
Yeah, I've always been, to some extent, on whatever video game I've been playing, I've always been a tryhard to some extent. And ESO was just kind of a hop, skip, and a jump from that. Kind of went from just doing the stuff that existed at the game at the time when I started, which was some of the questing, and that was back when Craglorn was really hard, and then City of Ash 2 was the hardest dungeon in the game, and I was just wanting to be able to do some of that stuff, and looking around, and the 3 mil parse dummy came out, and I was like, I'm hitting 15k DPS. How are all these people like doing all this damage? And it was something that I just constantly wanted to keep getting into. I kept wanting to do more and more content, and then there was always something after that. And I mean, it's a blast, but progressing this type of content is by no means fun 24/7. That's like that's the masochist part of it. I would say is a lot. The journey's great, but a lot of the high that you chase is either that first trifecta for yourself or getting other people to that goal after progressing with them for months and months and months.
What's your approach to kind of getting end game ready? Do you read a lot of guides? Do you just go to a dummy and work it out? How do you do it?
Kind of a combination of everything. There are a lot of great guides to get started if you're new to a class, for example. I put out build guides. Skinny Cheeks has great guides. You could go look at Luca Cash or Charles, and and they're putting out some great parses that will show some pretty decent setups for what would be considered meta on the dummy, or for lack of a better word, a raw single target situation. But then you want to learn kind of how to adapt that setup for different types of fights. And you can do that by looking at different trifecta videos that people have posted on YouTube. But the best source and the best tool is a website called ESO Logs. And that'll just show you all of a collection of information from teams that have rated on PC, and kind of what the groups pushing the top scores will run fight to fight, and how their gear and skills will change, and you can make some adaptations based on that, and so on.
Cool. So what advice would you give somebody looking to dip their toes into the end game scene?
For somebody looking to dip their toes into the end game scene, the biggest and the most important thing is to just find a group of people that you enjoy raiding with and try to go in with little expectation. If you make the forefront of your approach as a player, like understanding that even, myself, somebody who I'd consider to be pretty repped out in endgame, that I still have so much more left to learn in so many different areas, and so many different things that I can improve on in everything that I do. If you go in with that mindset and that mentality, and then you look for ways to be able to learn and grow with that mindset, then you'll be successful in endgame. And, you got to figure out also, too, how far into it you want to get. You can get all the way into trifecta pushing and score pushing, which requires kind of an absurd amount of time and commitment. But for some people, that's what they want to do. And if that's what I want to do, I love it. I enjoy it. But that's not for everybody either. So you have to understand what's realistic as well with your expectations. Get into some hard modes, and if you're enjoying it and you want to get into more, then get into some trifectas. But understand, I guess, kind of the expectation that comes with doing some of those things, and find what's best for you.
Awesome. So we're just going to take a quick moment to remind you that this show is part of Bonus Roll Productions. You can find our show and lots of other great MMO-focused podcasts, such as A Podcast Reborn for Azeroth and Technically PvP over at bonusroll.gg. You can also get merch for the 10th Divine or other Bonus Roll shows at etsy.com/shops/bonusrollproductions.
So we touched on this just a little bit a moment ago. You said you create build guides. How on earth do you do that? What's the kind of process behind that? How do you keep up with it all?
So there are two types of build guides that I think a lot of people don't really recognize. There's the creators out there who go and make these like unique builds that are fun to play in certain situations, or like, this is my build, I made it type of thing. But what I and some of the other YouTubers that I had mentioned do, we don't create our own builds. We present kind of a hodgepodge of information that relays into a build for the 21 mil dummy that you should adapt in content. So it's just kind of, as I said earlier, just getting a lot of experience in all the different raiding environments. I'm a console and PC raider, so I have the opportunity to test a lot of different setups on PC, or see what the other damage dealers on my team are testing on their own as well. I go through and look at all the information in ESO logs. I keep up to date on the information being put out by all the different ESO endgame PvE creators. And especially with all of the changes that came to gear and skills the last year, it's been really tough to keep up on. And the biggest thing is just time and letting things get tested to have a really good idea of what's going on, which I think we do have a good idea of now, thankfully. But just time and analyzing these resources is really the way that I come up with my builds and such.
Okay. How did you find the infamous update 35? What was?
Oh man, that was an update that almost killed the game. It did kill endgame for a while, but thankfully it seems like Necrom is bringing a lot of interest back. And it wasn't even necessarily the update itself that went through. Like the patch itself wasn't inherently horrible. It was just the entire PTS cycle and the seemingly lack of understanding of what kind of the player base wanted out of these updates and the way that they went about it all. I mean, I've never seen Endgame more dead in a period in my life. It was incredibly difficult to get subs for teams. I had to refill a bunch of my teams. I know that of all of my Raider friends, I would say that a good probably 40 to 50% of just teams that raided disbanded altogether. It was a really rough time for Endgame, but it seems like it's making a pretty decent comeback.
That's good. That's good. Do you think they're listening a bit more to the player base now?
Yeah, for sure. I think that they definitely heard, and they're definitely reacting accordingly. And it's not even that they didn't listen to the player base in lots of depths. I think, ultimately we gave them a list of all of the problems after testing on the PTS and just different opinions from different raiders everywhere. And ultimately, they fixed a lot of the issues that were in that week 1 PTS. So I don't even necessarily think it's not that they ever weren't listening. It's more so just that at the time, hopefully not anymore, they have a really skewed idea and perception of what their player base actually wants.
Right.
And when we communicate it, they react. It's just that we have to communicate a lot more than any of us would really like to have to communicate.
Fair enough.
So, how do you decide on sets for builds? Do new sets typically outperform sets from recent expansions?
Yeah, it definitely depends. Typically, the new trial sets always have some sort of relevance in the meta conversation. The sets that we decide on for builds now really just depend on, in my opinion, what type of fight you're doing. So I think that there are 4 main types of fights in the game. You have your single target boss fight, which is the type of fight that the 21 mil dummy perfectly replicates. You have your AoE boss type fight like Oxiltso hard mode or Boss A hard mode in VRG. And then you have burst variations of those fights. So fights where you have to do single target burst damage in a very short window of time, like the Spider in VHOF or Asylum's a great example of that type of fight. And AoE burst fights, which I would just call trash pulls. So all of our different sets are going to do something very different in each type of fight, right? You take a set like Reliquin, for example, where it's applied based on stacks of light attacks, and it takes 10 seconds to reach its strongest duration, but once it gets there and has a while to tick, it's the strongest single target set in the game. You're not going to do that on a trash pull that lasts less than 10 seconds, So it just depends on kind of what we know, going back to ESO logs earlier, which of our vast variety of meta set options that we have to choose from are going to perform the best in each of these types of situations, testing some of these things out, and then kind of making a decision on what looks like it's doing the most damage, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just a kind of is it a bit of a spreadsheet game, just kind of working it all out in a numbers? Yeah.
To some extent, for sure. To some extent.
Although obviously that's only going to give you the perfect answer, which is difficult to replicate actually in the game.
Right. Definitely. And that's why ESO logs is such a great tool, because it'll tell you exactly how much damage each set is doing in that actual raid scenario.
Yeah. Can you with ESO logs, is it similar to WoW logs where you can compare yourself to other players? Can you pull up a direct comparison, or do you just only have your own data?
I'm not super familiar with WoW logs, but you can pull comparisons. Like it'll tell you anything you want to know about the encounter. It'll tell you basically. It'll tell you how much damage everybody in the group is doing. It'll tell you exactly what skill did what amount of DPS, what its max value was, what its average value was. It'll tell you all the information that you need to know about a specific fight regarding mechanics, the damage that they did to you when they happen. You can go back and look at actually like replays of the players and when they cast specific skills as well. Okay. I mean, it's an incredible source of information.
Okay, so that's Shanty. That's your next job, to become an ESO logs expert. If you want to, if you want to make it all the way through Endgame. How difficult do you find it to keep up with the meta cycle? Do you spend a lot of time on the PTS? It sounds like you do.
I did for a while. Yeah, definitely. This Scribes of Fate was a really simple one, thankfully. There was you can kind of tell when you see some of the different sets come out or the different skills get changed, like what's probably going to be meta more often than not. Like I could look at all of the dungeon sets and probably figure out that the only one that might be worth anything is Rune Carver. Okay. And it's a good set. It's just not it'll probably be very, very situationally meta, I guess. It'll be really good for specific fights and not for much else. Same with the changes to like Wrecking Blow. A spammable that's already strong now also gives you Major Berserk. Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. It's going to be really powerful. So keeping up with the meta, this last patch hasn't been very difficult, but in all of 2022, it was impossible. It was impossible to keep up with all of the changes that were being made, and that's why we had to wait so long to see all these things tested out. And I remember it was funny, Skinny Cheeks put out a video recently about the set Flame Blossom that through all of this, we thought that we all kind of like had a good idea by the end of last year. Okay, these are all kind of the best sets. This is what we're going to start using, blah, blah, blah. And then everyone was just kind of like, wait a second, Flame Blossom's really good for these types of fights. We totally forgot about this one. But I mean, it's that was just that was insane to try to keep up with the meta. But I think we have a really good grasp and a really good handle on it now. So as long as they don't do anything that insane again, then I think it's not going to be too terribly difficult to keep up with.
Okay.
So as long as there's no more update 35s.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
35, yeah. Okay. And they've sort of said they're going to try not to do that again, although they didn't do it intentionally the first time. So
yeah, I would be okay with them doing something like that. Maybe like once a year for the chapters. That's what would make sense to me. You know, that's when players are kind of coming back to the game. That's when it makes sense to make a lot of these big changes if you want to, but you have to give, you know, players time to adapt to these changes and then actually use them before you go and do 2 back-to-back update 35s.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of changes coming with the chapter, but I would be frustrated if we saw much more than that.
Completely fair. So we did already touch on this some, but what other advice would you give to somebody looking to create their own build?
If you're looking to create your own build, kind of like I was talking about earlier, the first thing that's important is to just really understand what your goal is. You know, there are builds that are great for solo content, for 4-man content, for 12-man content, situationally for 12-man content. And then there's also these builds in between where like you can make a setup involving like Pillar of World that won't do particularly the best damage in an individual fight, but will do really, really well for every type of fight, you know? So the first thing that you need to do is just kind of identify what you're trying to accomplish. And when you have a really good idea of what you're trying to accomplish, it's not hard to get the resources to be able to put something together. And I mean, you know, the other thing to keep in mind too is that a lot of players who make builds are wanting to do it just for fun. So there are lots of sets that people can use that they want to use just because it's a cool set. But just because you do that doesn't mean that you can't also optimize the sets that you want to use to also do better damage by speccing for things like spell and physical penetration or hitting the crit damage cap or things like that. So also having a solid concept on what goes into optimization, whether it be your stat optimization or 12-man optimization for whatever build I guess you're trying to make as well.
Totally fair. Thank you very much. Just to wrap up, we've got a few fun questions just to finish off. If you could take one race or species from Nern and pop it out into our reality, which would you choose?
I think that it would be hilarious to see a bunch of wood elves sprinting around the place faster than lightning. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, fair enough. Just like zipping around all over the place.
Yeah, totally. Might be able to catch a ride with one or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, that'd be cool. New form of city transport, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's replace Lyft. All right, and so in a similar vein, what thing from our reality does Tamriel need?
Oh man, that's a hard one. I'm definitely gonna have to go with air conditioning. I mean, when you're in a trial for 2 hours at a time, especially like Yolnacrid and Sunspire, you can't tell me that it wouldn't be nice to just have like a little fan or something just attached to your hip. It gets hot, I'm sure, especially in all that armor.
Especially in all that armor. Yeah.
I've done run fairs. Yeah, that armor, it's warm.
Oh, fantastic. And finally, why is AD the best faction?
Oh man. Well, clearly, just because AD likes to have the most fun, considering that they're not very good at taking keeps. So I'd have to imagine that. I'd have to imagine that that'd be the reason.
Fair enough.
Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today and providing some great laughs just now. Can you let our listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm on twitch.tv/Eigh1. The T is a 1 and there's an underscore in between. Same thing on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. I post content just about everywhere you can.
Cool. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you've enjoyed it, please let other people know and give it a review wherever you're listening to us. Rating and reviewing the show will help other people find it. You can also give us a review over at Bonus Roll Podcast Directory. Go to bonusroll.gg/directory to find it. If you want to get in touch with the show, you can find us on Twitter at 10th Divine Pod, or you can email us at 10thDivinePodcast@gmail.com.
If you want to find us in other places, you can find me, Raven, over at Girls Gone WoW if you're a World of Warcraft fan, or if tabletop RPGs are more your thing, check out As the Dice Roll, where I'm part of the crew of the Cautious Optimism. You can also find me as Silky Raven on Twitter, Twitch, or Instagram, or at the GGW Discord at girlsgonewow.net/Discord. There's a channel over there for ESO chatter and lots of other general gaming chat.
And you can find me, Shanty, on Twitter or Twitch, streaming ESO and other MMOs at Shantyman Gaming. If blogs are your thing, you can check out my Road to Endgame series on the Bonus Roll website. You can also find me on the Girls Gone WoW Discord, joining in the ESO chatter and gaming chat, and a whole variety of other gaming Discords. This coming week, the day this episode releases, Friday and Saturday, I'll be live at 5 p.m. on Central on Twitch, raising funds for Extra Life.
Yay!
So feel free to drop by and say hello if you happen to see me online. We will be back in an... Oh, go ahead, Raven.
No, go.
We will be back in a fortnight with another lovely chat about ESO. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.